In New York, Bernie Sanders recently drew a crowd of over 27,000 people. Now, one would normally take this as a sign of excitement that his campaign is generating, but David Catanese of US News actually took it as an opportunity to attack Bernie Sanders and praise Hillary Clinton. Yes, you heard me right. This one journalist at US News is criticizing Bernie Sanders because his crowds are too large and praising Hillary Clinton because her crowds are smaller. This is not satirical. I literally had to check because it reads like a satire article, but it's not. This is real quote journalism nowadays, guys. So let's get to the argument. I'm going to try not to laugh because it's absolutely absurd. So he argues Clinton's events in the Empire State routinely focus on a particular subset of voters, allowing her to narrowcast a specific message that resonates with them. Whether it be women, African Americans, or seniors, the Clinton operation is ever cognizant about catering to the targeted group's sweet spots. Sanders, meanwhile, continues to rely on the mega rally, packing as many supporters as he can into a venue and delivering his standard sermon of progressive platitudes, an approach that has defined his campaign from the start. Oh, is that what you want to call it? Really? So if she has low turnout at her events because nobody wants to show up and she's not exciting her own supporters, you call that targeted events? Are you kidding me? You're clearly angry at the fact that Bernie Sanders is drawing more crowds than Hillary Clinton. That's not by design. She's just getting lower turnouts because people aren't coming to hear her speak. Bernie Sanders literally has to change venues. He did it in my state when he came to Portland. He had to switch venues a week before the event because he had so many people wanting to come. There's a reason why Hillary Clinton is not generating excitement. She's a buzzkill candidate. She's not proposing anything new or revolutionary. All she's saying is, I'm going to be Obama's third term, which is fine if you like Obama, but that's not going to excite everyone. We have severe problems that she is not planning to address, such as the healthcare crisis. Obamacare is not going to do very much, even if you expand it. If we get to 100% of coverage with Obamacare, well, you're still going to have many people underinsured. That's not exciting anyone. Universal healthcare, something that will literally save lives, that's exciting people. Nobody's thinking, oh, well, I guess I'm going to vote for Hillary because she's more practical and she has experience. Oh, I just can barely contain my excitement. There's no excitement there. That's why she's getting low crowds, not because she planned it. It's not by design. It's because nobody wants to hear her speak. Now, I also really like how he calls what Bernie Sanders says platitudes. So when Bernie Sanders spends more than an hour at his events talking about very specific policies, such as universal health care to all citizens and free education by taxing Wall Street speculation, that's not specific. But when Hillary Clinton says, we're going to break down all the barriers, that's specific. That's not a platitude. This argument is borderline delusional. It's just so far removed from the real world that you can't help but think this is satire. Now, he goes on to praise Hillary Clinton, particularly because she focuses extensively on women's issues, but there's a problem with that. So I'll get to that in a minute. So he says, to be fair, Sanders regularly lists equal pay for equal work in his speeches as a goal he shares, but he often mentions it only briefly before readily moving on to other topics. Clinton's willingness to devote entire events to single issues conveys a dedication and sophistication that reverberates with voters looking for more than slogans. Pay equity is just one example of the hyper-focused Clinton campaign strategy. Now, he talks at length about how Hillary Clinton is right to fight for equal pay for equal work, but unfortunately, I'm going to have to break some bad news to you, David. It's just rhetoric. Now, there's evidence for this because if Hillary Clinton was actually really trying to get something done about the gender pay gap, you'd think she would start by addressing the pay gap within her own foundation. Because according to the Daily Caller, male executives at the Clinton Foundation make 38% more than women. So if she really was concerned about the pay gap, wouldn't she start where she could actually make a difference immediately? I mean, it's really telling, and the reason why I don't think Hillary Clinton cares about the pay gap, and the reason why Bernie Sanders cares more about it, even though it's the case that she's a woman, is because she's a multimillionaire. Now, again, the gender pay gap, it's actually overstated. It's more like 4 to 6 cents in terms of the pay gap. So there's a lot of misinformation around the topic, but I mean, even if you propose legislation to address that 4 to 6 cents, hopefully it can make a difference. It's not going to do anything bad. So I'm not against it, but I'm saying that if a candidate really cares about it, they should do everything they can to stop the pay gap in areas where there actually is a pay gap in the Clinton Foundation. But he gets into talking about the crowds again, and he says that it doesn't matter that Bernie Sanders is drawing all these crowds in New York because he is down in the polls. He's not polling well with African Americans in New York. He's down by like 40 points. But it does matter because if you have these large crowds, you're generating excitement. You're then getting press coverage, and then you could have someone hear about Bernie Sanders because of it. So it very much does matter. And the point that I want to make is that you would be really excited if Hillary Clinton was drawing 27,000 people. But the fact that she's not, it just makes you jealous. You don't like Bernie Sanders. Therefore, any and everything that he does and doesn't do is going to be a point that you're going to criticize him on. I know the tactic. This is what the Democratic Party, the political establishment, the media establishment has been doing since he announced his presidential bid. So you're not doing anything new. You're not being revolutionary here. Now, finally, he contrasts Bernie Sanders' more chaotic, multi-thousand people crowds with Hillary Clinton's more personable, eloquent speeches. So he says, at the Glassdoor roundtable where barely a few hundred people showed up and some seats in the theater were empty, it's embarrassing, Clinton was asked if she was hopeful the issue of pay equity was garnering real traction in the political realm. She didn't deliver a stem winder of an answer or one that could be easily tossed on a bumper sticker, but she left those in attendance with the strong impression that she would be committed to following through on it later. Oh, well, isn't she just a pragmatist? I mean, she's the one candidate that's actually realistic, right? This is ridiculous. I'm so sick of Hillary the pragmatist and this notion that she's the only person who is actually committed to fighting for things, or that she's the only person that can get things done. I've got really bad news for you, buddy, but the Republicans don't like Bernie Sanders or Hillary Clinton, so either one of them would have a hard time fighting against the Republican-controlled Congress. But do you want to know who the party hates more than Bernie Sanders? Hillary Clinton. They've been lining up the Benghazi attack, for example, years before she even announced her candidacy. And it's just a political attack. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing. So this article is embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. You're literally arguing that it's bad for Bernie Sanders to have these huge crowds and generate excitement, and you're arguing that Hillary Clinton's events with a couple hundred people is a good thing. Did you not think before you wrote this? Did nobody read this and question, really, you're going to make this argument? There's 100 different ways that you could come up with a BS attack against Bernie Sanders, and this isn't something that reflects poorly on Bernie Sanders. It just reflects poorly on you and U.S. News, your, quote, news organization. Having good crowds is an indication that he's generating grassroots excitement, and this is good for his campaign. Either way, no matter how you want to slice it, it's a benefit. Nobody's ever argued before that having large crowds is bad or detrimental to a candidate's campaign, or that it's somehow going to be bad in terms of influencing the vote. Nobody's ever made this argument. This is unique. And furthermore, the reason why Hillary Clinton has more votes is because you'd be surprised at how having Clinton as your last name is automatically going to yield you with a lot more name recognition. Political science studies have shown time and again that voters are reluctant to support candidates that they're unaware of or ballot propositions that they've never heard of. So if they don't really know too much about something, they're just going to revert back to what they know best about. And if they don't know about Bernie Sanders, which still, unfortunately, many people don't, then they're just going to support Hillary Clinton because they at least know that she's better than the Republicans. So the reason why Hillary Clinton is winning, embarrassingly enough, is because low information voters are choosing her because they don't know about the viable option that is Bernie Sanders. They don't know that he is more electorally viable in November against Republicans. So this whole argument about the crowds is the most ridiculous attack on Bernie Sanders I've seen yet. And trust me, I've gone through a lot. You can go through my channel. I've seen a lot. But criticizing Bernie Sanders and attacking him because he has large crowds, it just reflects poorly on you, not Bernie Sanders. This is a pathetic attempt at an attack on Bernie Sanders.